Yeah, I think I have enough bangers to be woke. And I think I'm so vibely that you'll even be shocked to when you get to know me, understand how also woke I am as well. Because I get lit. Do you know what I mean? I like to have fun.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
The backstage was
yeah, exactly.
the vibe, yeah.
Turn up, but we learn up. Do you know what I mean? So I just think having a good balance as an artist is good.
Hello and a warm welcome to This Is Africa, the podcast bringing you the people behind the music. With me, DJ Edu, the Afro Boss. My guest today was right there at the birth of Afrobeats, and songs like Azonto and Antenna made him a household name. But there's a lot more to Fuse ODG than his own songs. In 2018, he won a Grammy for his collaboration with UK superstar Ed Sheeran for the song Bibia Be Yeye. And he's passionate about challenging negative narratives about Africa. He refused to be part of the re-release of the Band Aid song Do They Know It's Christmas, and he has launched an app to teach kids about African history and a range of African Barbie-type dolls with cool afros.
Yes, my people, this is Fuse ODG here representing that new African nation, that spirit of new Africa. And you are now aligned with This Is Africa with the Afro Boss, DJ Edu.
Hey, today my brother Fuse in the building, man. How you doing, Chale?
Yo, well, thank you for having me, bro. But it's always good to see. I feel like home here. The decor's nice.
Yeah. The Kente vibe, some bit of Kenya, some bit of flowery. You like it? Yeah?
I just need some jollof bamboo, some ugali,
Well-
some sadza.
We're working on the 54
The 54
countries
platter.
buffet. Yeah. So let's get into it, Fuse, man. I know you've done a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah.
But let's start with your most recent body of work.
Yeah.
And this 54 countries has been flying. You brought in a book. This is fresh new.
Yes.
Talk to me about this whole 54 countries concept.
So the concept of 54 countries is, I think, now more than ever, is essential for us to be able to narrate our own stories. Because for too long, somebody else been telling our stories for us. And I guess when we all started and we were, working to change the perception of the continent, we weren't so particular about, the different countries. We just wanted to really just showcase Africa to the world. Mm-hmm. And now that through Afrobeats, we've got the attention of the world, we're like, now that we have your attention, meet Mozambique, meet Benin, meet Nigeria, meet Ghana, meet Kenya. There's so many other countries in Africa with so many different cultures, languages, experiences. It's really our chance for us to now start to narrate our stories, because we're not just, a one monolithic place. We are so diverse. We are so unique. Mm-hmm. But I always emphasize this, in all of this, the main vision is for all of us to move as one. But it's still key for us to be able to tell our different stories. It's just painting Africa as one place with one brush. It's quite dangerous, because, I gave the example of when something happens in Sierra Leone or something happens in Congo, people start cancelling their flights in South Africa.
Yeah.
But really the distance is so vast that it just doesn't make sense. But that's because in people's minds, Africa is one place.
When did you start pushing this narrative? Because most artists will just put out music for enjoyment and not probably focus on this. But you've always been on this part of empowering Africa.
We always knew that this chapter was going to come. For you to be able to tell a story, you need people's attention. For you to get people's attention, you need to be able to create love for that specific subject. And now there's a thirst for this knowledge that people want to know more about the continent. Africans want to know about who they are, where they're from, and that's why we launched the educational app School of New Africa, because we knew that this time was going to come where people would want to know who they are. Africans are so proud of who they are that they now care about what their kids consume. Our parents didn't really care like that, because they were more in survival mode, and they did their best to make sure that we were okay. And they've done that now. So now it's our responsibility to make sure that what we didn't get when we were in school, our kids are now getting it now. So we always knew that it was going to get to this stage once that love is there for Africa. And that's why I dived into the 54 countries to educate the world and to educate Africans in Africa. Because honestly, there's a lot of people, a lot of Africans who hadn't heard of some of the African countries I was even talking about. Do you know what I mean? Like when they're hearing me talk about Comoros, they never heard of a country called Comoros or Lesotho. I don't blame them because the curriculum across the continent is a Western curriculum.
I like how you did it, because first it was the app
Yeah,
that was teaching the kids.
yeah,
Then it was 54 countries, the song.
yeah, yeah.
So that inspired the book.
Yes.
But talk to me about the song. How did that come up? And some of the lyrics in there, because
Yeah.
you break it down so
Yeah, yeah,
beautifully in a way in which can be consumed by adults and kids as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So initially, I just wanted to make a song that was fun, and that's like taking my woman across the continent, right? The first original song, I only did about 8 countries. But after I finished that song, I was just like, wait a minute, like the spirits are telling me to go across the whole of the continent, like every single country. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I've been to a lot of countries in Africa, but I haven't been to all 54 countries. So how do I travel to these places in this song if I haven't been to some of these places physically? So I spent a lot of time reading about the different countries on YouTube, Googling the different countries, and watching videos of all the different experiences across all the different countries. Honestly, I knew that hadn't been done before. There wasn't a reference, I had to become the reference. I had to really learn. Now I can tell you what you can do in every single country in Africa because of the song. And that's the idea of the song, to educate people when they listen. Even as a writer, I learned so much from making, and that's why we had to do the 54 countries children's book for the kids.
Because, a book is easier to read. 54 countries song would probably be how many? The attention span now is so small. It's like 3 minutes. They're like, next song, please.
Exactly.
So did you break? So you broke the song down into different parts
like
to make it accessible.
Attention span is very low now. So what I did is I made sure that every verse was good enough to treat as a song. Every verse I took it very serious, and I made sure that it wasn't longer than 1 minute because I know the time that we're in right now. You hear about 8 countries within 1 minute. Which
one enlightened you the most? Because you said you went to town with the research, and you were like, wow, I never knew that.
The last verse, because I felt like...
Come on, give me the last verse.
I felt like...
Come on, give me the last verse, please, man. Come on.
It's a make we go Angola. Hit Luanda, you go never want leave. Central Republic of Africa. Watch elephants bath, see the birds then flee. Have you been Cape Verde? That should have been first. So beautiful and clean, just like Equatorial Guinea. One of my favorite places to be. And when we go to Sierra Leone, you will feel at home when you chop cassava leaves. Rare place you don't hear, that's Comoros. That's the island for a white sand beach. See, that right there, I felt like unintentionally... Comoros wasn't in my mind like that, but when I got to learn about it, I was just like, wow, this place is so beautiful. It just felt so beautiful to say, like, rare place you don't hear, because that's how I felt. And then Sierra Leone as well, having cassava leaves, the cassava leaf stew, it bangs like crazy, and I have a lot of Sierra Leonean friends. I know that Sierra Leone got some of the best food, some of the best jollof as well, actually, but I had to give the jollof to Senegal. I had to be like, if you want something delicious, we could chop jollof from a Senegalese.
You didn't want the smoke from Nigeria or Ghana.
Politics. I didn't want to do none of that politics. So, but it was very fun.
It seems your audience is very diverse. When you're making your music, do you have that in mind?
I'm gonna be very transparent with you. When I was making this album, I didn't think about my audience because I knew this album needed to happen no matter what, whether people liked it or not. So I didn't know how people were going to take it, if I'm being honest with you. From the first album being This Is New Africa, which is more about changing mentality. Then we did that. Then we became a nation. Second album, New African Nation. I just knew that as a nation, we don't have the level of knowledge and expertise to be able to lead ourselves as a community, because the foundation of us as a new African nation is not good enough. So when we've now put out Sundiata,
Yeah.
remember that's not a normal single to put out.
Yeah.
But we knew that it had to be Sundiata to start with, just so people can understand where we're at. And the reception was so incredible, Edu. I could not believe how much people were gravitating to it. And
it's the chorus. It's the chorus.
And the
man.
world was aligning with it as well.
Spit the chorus. Spit the chorus.
I came with the spirit of Sundiata. I can never be afraid. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's like
it's
that
like, yeah.
that spirit of no fear. Everyone,
It's like you're sermoning the
yeah,
spirits. to
everybody
come in that-
just
yeah.
resonated
Yes,
with
yeah.
it. Like, and I was so grateful to just have followed my instincts to just do what I felt was the right thing to do, rather than what I felt my audience wanted to hear. So when we actually did the show and seeing everyone singing along to the songs from the album, I was just like, wow.
You just
like,
give thanks and praise.
just
huh?
I give thanks and praise. I'm just like, wow, like, you know, it was very inspiring for me to continue to follow my energy and follow my instincts. And it makes me more excited I'm already working on the next album.
Oh, nice.
Do you know what I mean? I'm already working on the next album because it just feels like we need to keep the conversation flowing. It feels like I'm having a dialogue with the audience, you know, and we're talking back and forth. We're talking about taking back our narrative. We're talking about the power of names. You know, when I went to Zambia and seeing Victoria Falls and, you know, speaking to the locals and them saying that it needs to be reverted and restored back to Monsieur Tunia, which is the original name.
Yeah.
You know, all of these conversations are coming up during this whole album campaign. And it's not just something that's happening online. We're actually speaking with people and making impact offline as well. And that show was proof that offline we're a big community who actually believe in taking back our narrative of who we are and setting the pace for the next generation. So it's so exciting to be a voice and to be part of this movement where it's like a soundtrack to where we're at as Africans, or where we need to be as Africans.
It wouldn't be right if I didn't take this opportunity to say R.I.P. to your grandmother.
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah.
she was such an inspiration. Did she inspire some of the work that you've been doing?
Yeah, my grandma always said to me like, "Oh, don't be flashy, you know, be humble, put God first." Yeah.
Then you went against it. You had the bling.
You know, it's so crazy when every time I'm doing too much, I remember her voice. Yeah. But she's definitely an inspiration. She loved to sing all the time. She loved to pray every day. She loved to affirm us. You hear her voice from the other room because she's just affirming how she wants her grandkids and how she wants her kids to be like. So definitely she was a big inspiration, and we gave her a beautiful send-off. So yeah, thank you.
Amazing. And that brings me to you, who's been a bit back and forth, a bit in Ghana, a bit in the UK. Explain to me how that whole scenario happened, how it impacted you as
so you know, this journey, I have to be out here representing the continent. Like, you know, I can't just do it in Ghana, I can't just do it across the continent. I actually have to be outside, because funnily enough, the battles on ground is so different from the battles here. Because, you know, someone in Ghana don't even understand the concept of racism as we know it in the UK. I have to actually educate them about what we're going through here, why I'm saying this is New Africa. I have to educate them and let them know that it's not cool to be African out here. You know, we've been trying to make it cool. They don't get that because all their lives
they're African every day, yeah.
Exactly. You know, because even the concept of Afrobeats is weird to someone in Ghana because it's just music to them.
Yeah. True.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just different battles, and I know that I have to be in both places. I know Ghana is peaceful for my soul, you know, more than being in the UK. Even though I grew up in the UK, I think there's a system here that you detach yourself from your soul because you're so busy working. That's what this country does to you. But Ghana really puts me back in touch on my soul, you know. So it's a good balance for me being able to spend time both in Ghana and both in England.
And how did you end up coming here?
I was born here. I was born in Tooting, but my parents had enough. We went back to Ghana. They didn't want to come back, but they ended up coming back because life got hard in Ghana.
okay.
So we ended up coming back.
When was that?
I was around 12
Okay.
when I came back. With strong African accent.
Oh.
I always said to people, like, when I came back to London, I realized that I wasn't just a human being. I was a black boy, and I wasn't just a black boy. I was a black African boy.
Oh.
So, and I got to find out how people perceive black African boys, and it wasn't so good. And I had to try and assimilate real quick because I was just getting into too many fights, coming back as a young black African.
Yeah,
So,
do you know I'm a king back home?
you understand? I was so confused because exactly, I felt like I'm coming from one of the best countries in the world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and you guys don't even respect it. But I got to understand when I saw the kind of images that they would show of Ghana, of, Africa. And I quickly had to adjust. As a child, I just wanted to just disconnect from those kind of images and where I was from, and just wanted to be British.
That was a safer space
That's
for
the
you.
safest space to be without, to kind of minimize the fights and, all the madness with all the other little kids. So, yeah, and then that's what really, for me, reinforces what I do as well. I want that child to be fully themselves, unapologetically, without having to disconnect with who they are. Because there's nothing worse in life than not being able to be yourself. So I do this for that child to be able to go to school and be themselves unapologetically. And it's happening right now, through Afrobeats. We've managed to achieve that. These kids are so proud to be Africans. I was saying I took my little sister a few years ago to the prom, and it was Afrobeats all the way with her friends.
Yeah.
They were speaking Tree.
Yeah,
they were speaking their own languages,
language,
proudly.
yeah.
And that wasn't happening before. I was embarrassed to speak Tree when I was in school. But now the kids are so proud to speak their Tree, to speak their broken English, their pidgin. Play the Afrobeats, wear their African fabrics, their kente. It's a beautiful time.
When you spoke of that child, I took me back to Christmas. And do they know it's Christmas?
Do they know it's Christmas? We know when it's Christmas.
Obviously, that was something that was a big thing for you, enough for you to not do the song back in the day.
Yeah.
But just draw a kind of like a picture for me back then when you're growing up. What was these some of the things that were niggling at you when you were seeing how Africa was being portrayed on TV?
Oh, yeah. That was one of the turning points for me, made me realize, this is the reason why they think, we're poor. This is the reason why they think, we live on trees and we have flies around our mouths. This is the reason why that, my Ghanaian friend, who I know is Ghanaian, is pretending not to be Ghanaian,
Wagwan.
pretending to be Jamaican.
Jamaican,
Yeah, definitely had a massive impact on me as a child, and it was a massive contributor to me not being proud of being African. So when the opportunity came, and I say opportunity because as an artist, that's a massive opportunity, because you get to rub shoulders with some of the, world-class talent, like the Adeles and the One Directions and the Ed Sheerans. So it was a massive opportunity for me as an artist. But me being connected to my purpose, my mission, which was This Is New Africa, changing how the world sees us and how Africans see themselves, it did not align with the movement. And I had to unfortunately turn it down.
Yeah. And what are some of the consequences you face for that? Because sometimes a yes can mean a lot of things, and a no can also come with a lot of baggage.
So what Geldof said to me on the phone, nobody says no to me, you're going to regret this. He even said, I'll see you tomorrow, after that. I was just like, okay, cool. I didn't really care because...
But, that's weird for me because you were such a young man. You're much younger then.
Exactly.
And you still stood on 10 toes.
And looking back, that's why I'm even more disappointed that he spoke to that young person like that because... I made a suggestion that we can actually make the song, in a way where we can still fulfill the goal, which was to raise money. And at the time, it was the Ebola crisis. And I made a suggestion, why don't we tweak some of the lyrics? Because here it says there's no peace and joy in Africa this Christmas. But that's where I'm going this Christmas. I'm going to Africa. I'm going to Ghana. That's where I am every December. I'm in Ghana. And he was like, I've been doing this for over 30 years. I'm not about to change it now. For me, I was just like, if you genuinely want to help Africans, why aren't you listening to Africans? Just ask them, what can we do to help? There was actually a solution for it. You know, Dr. Jean-Jacques Moyembe was the one who came with the cure for Ebola. You know, and they hadn't mentioned him once. You know, they really just wanted to highlight the problem in order to raise the money, you know, out of pity. But again, that was a red flag for me, because it's like he wasn't interested in the solution and actually letting people know that, you know, these are the people that are actually helping on ground. He just wanted to do his thing.
And have you guys communicated ever since?
We haven't communicated ever since, but I'm always open to actually have a conversation. You know, I've always been open. I don't think he's a bad person. I just think that his model was outdated, because, you know, at the beginning, you know, yes, there was a real crisis. Yes, there needed to be short-term humanitarian help. But 30 years later, 40 years later, if you're still sending money to the same place that you were helping 40 years ago, there must be something wrong.
Yes.
So why don't we look at that model? You know, there must be a different way. And that's why we did the app, Education App, School of New Africa, so we can teach the kids so they can be able to lead themselves and be able to be the solutions to their own problems.
That door closed, but another one, a window opened.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
In terms of inside of Ed Sheeran. How did that relationship manifest?
So Ed, I bumped into Ed at like one of the shows, one of the festivals.
I like how you call him, you know, like, yeah, I bumped into Ed, yeah, like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, that was actually very casual. Like, he's like, oh yeah, Fuse, I love your music, man. As soon as he said that, I said, oh, if you love my music, come to Ghana. That's where I make it. He said, yeah, I love Afrobeats. I'd love to. And he messaged me saying I'm serious. Took my number and messaged me saying I'm serious. Let me know when. And I still thought he was joking. Months later, he said, I'm ready. Like, let's go. Like, I want to book the flights. I was like, wow, he's actually serious. What I like about Ed is he actually came with an open mind to learn. And on that trip, we spoke about Band-Aid. He was proud to have done something to help people, which is how the British public felt. But I also gave him the perspective that the concept of like giving aid can also be crippling, and it just positioned us as a place that just needs aid, rather than a place that could do with trade and investment and tourism. And when I gave him that perspective, he understood that actually, once Africa is able to position themselves in a way that's empowering, they'll be able to help themselves. They wouldn't even need any external money. When I explained that to him, he was just mind blown, and he just couldn't believe that he participated in it in the first place. And then about 5-7 years later, because I said to him, I'm gonna speak about this, because I feel like 40 years later, if he's still doing this, somebody has to say something. And I see your name in it. You're my friend. I love you, but I'm still going to talk about it. So I was just giving him the heads up. And that was when he discovered that they've used his vocals without his permission. So that's when we aligned. And as soon as I spoke about it, he just amplified it.
And a Grammy later.
Yeah. That trip was very constructive, you know.
Yeah, so
the whole Grammy came from that trip.
Yeah, you cooked the music in Ghana. The music that won the Grammy. The song
that we made Bibi Abe, wrote Bibi Abe with Ed, which was on Divide. And it went on to win the Grammy. So it made me a Grammy-winning songwriter. You know, that whole trip was just so magical. You know, when he left Ghana, that's when he made Shape of You. Yeah, because when you're going to see the shapes,
it was Shape. Yeah, exactly. Even the continent looks very, you know, shapely.
See the
Shape of You. Maybe you're speaking about Africa. Do you ever find that people feel that you come across? You know, there's that borderline where when you're too conscious and you're too preachy, too woke, and people are like, Fuse is now starting to tell me where to go and what to do with my life.
Yeah, I think I have enough bangers to be woke. And, you know, and I think I'm so vibely that you'll even be shocked to, when you get to know me, understand how also woke I am as well. Because, you know, I get lit. Do you know what I mean? I like to have fun. Yeah. But at the same time,
the backstage was
exactly.
Was the vibe,
Turn up, but we learn up. Do you know what I mean? So I think I just think having a good balance as an artist is good. It wasn't until I went back to Ghana that, you know, Azonto was born. You know, I became successful because of that. So for me, I have to serve my continent, you know, because it has served me. And I say that to many other artists as well. Like, as an Afrobeats artist, don't just make the music and use the music for your own benefit. Serve the continent as well. I feel like I stand alone, but sometimes you have to stand alone in order to inspire other people. You know, and then I want to be the example that you can be successful, you know, just not just talking about one thing. You can actually be diverse in the kind of topics that you talk about. You can actually, you know, empower people through music, you know, not just through their feet, you know, in terms of dancing, but also through their minds. You know, so I want to be the example, and that's what's happening, and we're gonna keep going and keep going and keep going until we have more people, until we become an army. You know,
One nation army.
one nation, one Ra.
Rah, rah, rah. Do you ever speak to any of the artists, like, because I know you're in studio sessions and
Yeah.
stuff, or do you ever speak to any of the artists and just challenge them and ask them, yo,
I
bro,
do.
you know, you have a platform.
I do.
What are we doing?
But there's a difference between speaking to someone behind the scenes and then seeing how they, you know, portray themselves. I think it's a lot of artists are also in survival modes as well. You shouldn't really expect every artist to be revolutionary, because why should they be? You know, do you expect every single human being in life to be revolutionary? No, but some people are. And it's the same. Artists are a reflection of what the world is. Some people have the mentality of, for you to change things, you have to be at the table. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes you at the table and you start enjoying the food too much. Like, yeah, the next table, like, next
You'd
thing
rather
you
be
know-
under the table, get the crumbs, huh?
Do you know what I mean? But
Or create your own table.
yeah, or create your own table.
Sometimes I sit with you and I look back to when I first played Rwanda,
Yeah.
and you were always referencing the continent in
Yeah,
some way
yeah,
or
yeah,
form.
yeah.
You know, that first song that
Yeah.
I ever played, like, I think it was 2006, 2005.
Yeah, you was
Yeah.
really, you was the first. What's this?
Yeah, I was the first
The
one to
fir-
ever play a Fuse
person
ODG
to actually
record.
play. You and Ross Kwame,
Yeah,
first people, like,
yeah,
and only.
yeah.
And then you just held on to it. And then you was just kept pushing and kept pushing. I remember that every time
Yeah.
I'd speak to you as well, you'd encourage me as well. One thing I've always liked about you was, and I was talking about you earlier, to say that you are as Pan-African as me. You don't just like push music from your country. You don't just represent Kenya.
Actually, my Kenyan people think that I don't
You don't
push their
represent
music
them enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But this
I
the
don't know
thing.
whether that's a good thing or a bad
prophet
thing.
never respected in his own village. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you push every single country, and you genuinely love African music, you know, and you're not biased with it, you know, because you know the mission is bigger than that. It's
Yeah.
bigger than one country.
It's
about-
bigger than me.
It's bigger than you. It's bigger than Kenya. It's bigger than Ghana. It's really about us moving as a united front and just pushing the culture forward,
Yeah.
but still acknowledging, you know, that every country still exists, and that's what you've done. And
Yeah.
so
It's funny you say that, because I don't know if I've ever shared this story. I almost quit
really,
One Extra, because what happened is when the movement became big, they started taking away all the artists who were making it. And I'm like,
okay.
I built these artists from the ground up.
right.
So I went to complain to somebody who's a legendary broadcaster. And he was like, does BBC belong to your dad or your mom? And I was like, no. He's like, yeah, so what is your purpose? So I had to go home and really think about
Wow.
it. It was bigger than me.
Yeah.
But I was ready to quit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that was, for me, was a really big moment.
Yeah.
My, you know, light bulb moment.
Yeah. I
Wake
think-
up.
Yeah.
It's bigger than you.
It's bigger than you.
Yeah.
Even for me, like, when a few years ago, you know, the Year of Return. Because, you know, we launched the Year of Return and everything.
Oh yeah, actually, you did not
Yeah.
just speak about bringing people to
Yeah,
Africa.
we actually
you were
launched,
part
yeah,
of
the Year
making
of
people
Return.
year return, people going to Ghana to really
Exactly,
experience
exactly.
Ghana.
And just seeing the amount of people that was in Ghana, it was so overwhelming. And that moment I thought like this is way bigger than us. Do you know what I mean? Some of these people don't even know why they're here. They've just heard that they need to be here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, wow, like, you know, it's bigger than us. Do you know what I mean? We just
Still
have
going
to
strong.
keep
I've
doing
been
what we're
going.
doing.
I've been coming for the last 5 or 6 years, and even during the elections, you know how elections get bad
Oh yeah,
rapport.
yeah.
There was
still-
elections.
still-
the
still-
numbers went down,
still
but
crazy.
there were still millions of people who
Yeah,
came
yeah,
through,
it's
and
still
there's
crazy.
Caribbeans, Dutch accents,
Yeah.
American accents. There's all sorts of people there. Just
It's a beautiful
yeah,
thing.
it's
you know.
amazing what you guys have done.
So by 2050, Africa's gonna have the most populated young people.
Yeah.
Edu, what kind of young people are we gonna have? Are they gonna be proud Africans who understand the power that they have, or are they gonna be Africans who don't know who they are and end up making decisions that are bad for themselves, end up serving other people because they don't love themselves enough? But now is the time for us to actually do something to determine what that fate is. It's now. When I'm doing 54 countries,
Are you optimistic?
when I'm doing SONA, School of New Africa, I know I'm doing it because 25 years from now, I want to be able to say that we did that. I know it's not an easy mission, but I'm very optimistic. We just have to do the best that we can. We can't just do nothing.
Yeah. And do you ever get sort of disheartened with some of the stuff that happens on ground, you know, like Sudan, like what recently happened in Tanzania, in Kenya as well? Some of these things that, you know, kind of like...
I remember just last week, I was just like, what's happening? Like, we were doing so well. You know, I feel like it's like my football team. Like,
it's like we practiced this.
I'm like,
you know,
what's happening? Like,
2 banks of 4.
come on, bro.
And
It's
2
like the
strikers.
formation was there. Like, what's going on now? Like, what's happening now?
You're like, I had so much hope.
Yeah, but it's again, it's like things happen in the world. You know, things are happening in Africa. There's good things happening. There are bad things happening. A lot of these leaders are very old and they've been in power for so long, you know, that we just really have to focus on the kids. So yes, I get disheartened when I hear about how certain leaders are moving. I also get disheartened by how some of the leaders are moving in the UK too. You know what I mean? So there's bad leaders everywhere, you know. It's just our stories get highlighted more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, but because you put your money where your mouth is, because like you built the school as well.
Yeah, built a school in Ghana that's hosting about 300 kids.
Yeah,
primary school and a secondary school as well.
What's the curriculum there? Is it School of New Africa?
The curriculum is extracurriculum because bear in mind that the curriculum across the continent is based on British curriculum or the American curriculum. So anything that you do that's teaching about their history becomes extracurriculum. The problem goes deep, you know, from a curriculum perspective. And that's why I was saying what kind of young people will we be producing 25 years from now, because the kind of education that they're consuming right now is not ones that would empower the continent in the future. I think that's where we need to really focus on. And again, it's so hard trying to speak to different governments across the continent because they're lost themselves. And that's why we had to just take upon ourselves and just do it through the app.
But you got the ear to the Ghanaian government, Minister of Education.
Yeah.
You could throw in a word.
Honestly, like in politics, it's just nothing is straightforward.
Okay.
You know, you still have to do the work yourself, you know, and we've been doing it ourselves.
Be the example.
You have to be the example. Like, if you rely on any government, you just be disappointed.
Yeah.
You know?
What I always love is you always come bearing gifts and thank you for the book.
Yeah,
the first
man.
one to come out.
You're more than welcome.
And one thing that people don't really know about you is you can rhyme about anything.
Oh, anything.
I could tell you camera.
Oh, let's talk about what? Let's talk about camera. I have a few friends, Mr. Hake and Pamela. You can talk to them. They will show you about my caliber. I represent 54 countries in Africa.
Hey. go, man. Plants.
Oh, we talk about plant. Just give me your chance. You heard about Azonto. I made you dance.
Man, please, man. On that note, man,
I love it. I love it.
But I say, pop, 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 pop. Thank you so much.
That's a good one.
Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you
see
for having
you,
me,
man.
bro.
We
I love
appreciate
you so much,
you,
man.
man.
I appreciate you too.
And you do not stand alone, of course, man.
Of course.
I'll be somewhere in the background, saying, "Get fuse, go, go, go."
Just push me out there. I'm just on the stage like, Eddie.
What's going on? Thank you for joining us for This is Africa on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.